everyone. Welcome to a new season of Super Geeks. I'm your host, George. Joining me today to discuss a lot of interesting San Diego Comic-Con news is Sunseahl. How you doing, son?
Hello, everyone.
And my good friend who goes by Tim. Tim, how do you want to be called in this one?
People know me in the entertainment world as TymmyD, but yeah, I'm Timothy Dover. That's who I am. Commentator, conspiracy theorist, all that jazz.
Parody artist.
Parody artist. I never forgot the Lita one you did. What was that called?
Dabo with Lita.
Dabo with Lita. That's right. That was the first parody I heard of yours because Timmy and I have a history of working on a great show called Subspace Radio together in the past. We have a history, and he does some great parody shows. Or parody songs, I should say. And you've done some for what was it? The Elder Scrolls too, right?
Oh, I've done parody songs. I have over 70 of them at this point, and I think I've got probably 5 MMOs covered in there somewhere. But yeah, Star Trek is kind of how it started, and then just kind of rolled on to different MMOs after that.
All right. And son, you normally are on Tribbles and Ecstasy, right? You host that. You co-host with that a lot.
Yeah. Although at this point, I don't know where Tribbles is.
Where's Waldo? Where's the Tribble? I don't know.
Well, our main host Steve is kind of taking this extended hiatus to get fit and healthy and run all over the UK, and right. It just means the show's not been around.
Well, you know what? The show must go on. Well, Super Geeks had a huge hiatus because I was unable to be hosting this show for a while, but I'm back, ready to jump into all this incredible. Oh my God, it's almost overwhelming. All this news coming out of San Diego Comic-Con. Timmy, geez, you just saw the trailer at the same time I did yesterday for Star Trek Discovery Season 2. What are we thinking? How do you like the new Pike?
It's funny. As I go through and look at some of the things that they're doing now that they've decided, we really should connect with canon at this point because our show is so far out in left field at this point, nobody's going to know. Honestly, they claim it's in the Prime Universe. It looks like it's in the Kelvin Universe, but no, it's in the Prime Universe. So now that they've made these decisions to hook up with canon, the actors that they are grabbing for these are actually, they have similar features. So, I forget it. Anson something or other. I forget his actual name.
I forget his name too. The one who played Chekhov.
No. The guy that they actually picked for Pike.
Oh, him. Yeah, the guy who played Black Bolt on the Inhumans.
Yeah, there you go. He actually has some similar features to
Bruce Greenwood?
Well, no. To
the original Pike.
The original Pike.
Jeffrey Hunter.
Jeffrey Hunter, thank you very much. So part of it's in the eyes. Part of it is just in the way he carries himself. But they are, in fact, trying to remind people of the Prime universe, of the Prime, look and feel of it. Yes, they've updated the costumes.
At this point, I look at the uniform changes going on the same way that I look at what happened, what has happened to quote unquote uniforms in Star Trek Online. Like if you look at Star Trek Online's canon for uniforms, like after DS9, all the uniforms get like really, really hazy because they go through like 15 different iterations all at the same time, and decide on a single uniform.
What I like about this, though, is I like to look at the uniforms we're seeing in this trailer as an evolution towards TOS uniforms. Also the Cage uniforms, because there's a 9-year difference at this point between actually that's not true. The Cage has already happened now, didn't it? It was about 14 years before when the events of Kirk's Menagerie or Cage, whichever one it was, where he had the trial and we saw Pike in the wheelchair. Spock mentioned it had been like 14 years or something, 14 or 15 years in the past. So if Discovery takes place right now, 9 years before that, that means that he's already been through Talos for and all those things. So that means that those were the old uniforms, and that these uniforms are the ones in between the Pike, the original Menagerie uniforms, and Kirk's.
Yeah, but see, do not forget that Kirk's intro, the very beginning of Kirk's intro, he's actually wearing the sweater uniform as well.
Well, yeah, that's true, but they could have brought it back. I mean, there's a lot of explanations that could happen. They're going to play with it. They're going to have fun with it. They're going to, make some tweaks in the uniforms. I'm kind of curious as to whether our Discovery crew is going to, because according to the book, I can't forget the title. There's a canon book that came out where Pike and the Enterprise works with the Shinzu with Burnham and Giorgio, and they explain in that book that the uniforms that Pike's wearing are an experiment. They're for a new field uniform. So it's like explain that Starfleet tests uniforms, I guess. Sort of like how in DS9 they were wearing those, what became the regular uniforms that Voyager wears, the jumpsuits, the overalls, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it became like they were testing them. And then the Riker pole shirt uniform became.
Well, I mean, no. At that point, they were testing those uniforms as being the new standard because of Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine is where those uniforms started, and then Voyager itself got lost in the Delta Quadrant with those uniforms. Because if you watch the progression of Deep Space Nine, the uniforms changed from the Voyager look to what is that?
The gray
First Contact. The First Contact uniform.
I feel as though I am creatively they're testing out some new ideas. I'm on board the group of people who think Discovery. I think Timmy agrees with this too. I don't think they should have set the show in the time period that they did. Now, granted, we've been told there's going to be new shows coming, and it looks like Picard might be in one of them. It's looking really good, actually. So I'm wondering.
I really want Picard to be in a Discovery version of the Next Generation as a Q.
He should be an ambassador. If assuming this is assuming because it's not guaranteed. If they go by the Countdown comic canon thing that JJ's writers, was it Orsi, whatever his name was, he wrote that story that led into Spock going back into the path, changing the alternate timeline thing there, and what led up to it. And Picard was an ambassador to Vulcan during that. So if they acknowledge that, if they do, because they don't have to, if they acknowledge that, depending on when the new show is set, either Picard's retired, he's an ambassador, maybe he came back to Starfleet as an admiral. They've got a lot of wiggle room. They could bring back any of the Next Generation cast in this new show. So we were talking about Discovery. Now we're kind of spinning off into the announcement of the new shows that are coming. But going back to Discovery a little bit, Timmy, any thoughts about what you see in the trailer as to what's going to happen in season 2, especially about Spock?
Yeah, we already get the sensation, from just their way of handling things, that we are going to see a lot more of the Enterprise crew. I mean, they've already cast number 1, so that right there, yep, that right there, I think for me indicates that, okay, we're going to see some of what's going on in the Enterprise. That just lends itself to Spock being there. I mean, come on, he's already their science officer, and as far as getting some history on number 1, who is number 1? I mean, she's a very mysterious woman. It's
a very nebulous character. The Marvel Comics did do a run once where they named her, and they gave her it was a comic book run that was it was a few years ago, and I can't remember what name they gave her, but it also was implied that she and Pike had a romance, and that could be something they carry over.
Look, I'll be 100% honest. I don't think Pike ever had a romance with this woman. I think they grew up, quote unquote, in the academy together, because.
Well, we don't know which canon they're going to draw from.
Right. I understand that, but no matter which canon no matter which type of canon you draw from, what people have visually seen of number 1 is that he thinks of her as not a woman, but a man.
But we know she's in love with him because the Talosians read her mind.
Yes, we do know that.
But at this particular point, regardless, we know that he falls for Vina and ends up staying with her on Talos.
Eventually, yes.
So,
that's
right,
true.
but that's in the future. That's a future event from what's going
Yeah, it's
on.
about maybe 10 years
thing.
going forward, yeah.
With them introducing the Enterprise, they're not going to have Spock. They're not. Because
actually,
it says in the trailer, Spock took an extended hiatus.
oh, this
No, he's in the trailer. She touches him. You just don't see his face. She's like putting her hand on
Right,
it.
and the whole adventure they're going on is because it is connected to Spock.
Those red things in his face, yep.
So we won't see him for a good portion of this new season, period.
I think the first half is going to be like the way they treated Supergirl with Superman, where you don't see his face until they confirm with casting. Because there are rumors, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but Spock is, you don't name drop Spock, and you don't introduce this retcon of his having a sister, a foster sister, of course, that has caused some division with the fandom. You know what, I'll be honest with you. I'm so tired of the people that argue we never heard Spock mention a sister. Well, we didn't hear Spock mention Cybok either until Star Trek V. That doesn't mean it didn't happen.
And they totally had to retcon that in. So, and eventually people got okay with it. Okay, Cybok, fine, yeah. I mean, Vulcans tend to be very private individuals as it is. So no, they're not going to be running about willy-nilly going, hey, I've got a half-brother Cybok. He's kind of weird, he's just...
Sometimes
totally
people don't
emotional.
go out of their way to discuss with people that you see on the on-air episodes about their personal family history. Hey, Kirk didn't even know hardly anything about Spock's family until the Journey to Babel episode when he met his mother. I mean, because Spock was so private, he didn't talk about that stuff. So why are people surprised if he had a sister? Who cares if she wasn't brought up? I mean, as far as being mentioned, doesn't mean he didn't have siblings.
Let's be honest. It was kind of a shock to Kirk in the first place that the Vulcan ambassador was Spock's father.
Yeah,
or that his mother was human.
Yeah, well, I think he knew prior.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That he was half human. So I mean that was a non-issue. But as far as Spock having a foster sister, I mean that's totally out of the realm of that's way out there, outer circle family. So for a Vulcan who is a private type of person to begin with to start talking about the outer reaches of the family circle, that's almost unheard of. So
is it go ahead.
Well,
no, go ahead, Timmy. Finish your thought.
Yeah, to be perfectly honest, I am not surprised at how they're handling this in Discovery, that they're seeing it from a totally different angle. We're now taking it from the perspective of the person in the outer circle looking in. So yes, they're going to talk about Spock a lot more than Spock would have talked about her, etc., etc. Now, timeline-wise, here's an issue that, at least for me, I'm not quite sure about. At the time that Kirk took over the Enterprise from Pike, is it not true that Spock had served with Pike for 11 years?
I think more than that. I think it was 15.
Okay, so it's possible. 15 years. So that would put, if Spock was not yet his first officer, that would put this particular set of events at least 15 years prior to Kirk taking command of the Enterprise.
9 years. They've already established that.
Well, then somebody screwed up.
Wait. What do you mean first officer?
Well,
I'm sorry, not first officer, science officer.
Yeah, okay.
Science officer. But Spock was the science officer on the Enterprise, and served with Pike. Again, I'd have to go back and actually look at the menagerie to be sure, but I thought it was between 11 and 15 years. I don't remember specifically.
I saw clips from it on YouTube because of all this. Like, whenever I was watching the season 2 trailer, sometimes it would bring up like things, and I would click it about Pike. It just, the way it associates and say, hey, check this out. I watched scenes from that, and the courtroom scene with Pike, Spock, and Kirk, and I believe, I could be wrong, I'm leaving room for that, but I believe he said 15 years was when the events of the cage happened.
Let's assume for a moment that it was 15 years before the events of the cage. that would then, if they're saying this was 9 years prior to Kirk taking over, they've got a huge discrepancy here, because that means that Spock would have served with Pike previously to this event. And
I don't know, man. They got Tuvok serving two different tours over 70 years on in Starfleet because of his Ponfar, as he explained in the, in the flashback episode. So I don't know.
Yeah, but see, that's kind of an ethereal thing. I mean, there isn't hard, canon being set out as to Tuvok's timeline, but to Spock, I mean,
it seems almost like Vulcans, because of their longevity, have different ways that they interpret their careers as far as coming and going. I
feel like I'm listening to an argument over the Twilight Vampires timeline. They left the place, years passed, and then they came back.
I've never seen the Twilight movies.
And then the Indians start turning into werewolves because they came back, and it's like, I just want to watch the movie.
I'm a huge Star Trek fan, okay? I've been a Star Trek fan since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. And to be perfectly honest, I'm really not a huge stickler. But when it comes to this stuff, Discovery, even when Discovery was first announced, okay, I was like, this is going to be problematic because they're either going to have to do it in the Kelvin universe to make their own timelines for things, or they're going to be, they're going to be shoehorned into doing certain things at certain times because the history is already there.
This is the problem Enterprise had. This is the problem Enterprise had back in when it first started. And then they started to figure out, like they introduced a Klingon 100 years or 99 years before the canon said that they met the Klingons. Going to Broken Bow. Oklahoma. Yeah, Broken Bow. And the thing is that they then were smart and they used that time war, the temporal Cold War, to help explain some of the discrepancies that had happened. It was the same timeline, but there was a few adjustments that happened because of the temporal Cold War. And that worked for me, and I'm glad that they did that. But you know what? Discovery has not... You're right. There's a danger of, if you're not careful with the canon, you're going to alienate the fans.
There is an explanation, but it's not been technobabbled yet to the
Technobabbled, I like that.
Well, it's not been explained to the fans in a way that the fans understand and accept yet, and that is the Spore Drive is kind of its own version of time travel and alternate timeline travel.
Well, they need to go forward.
Parallel. It has, the Spore Drive has an ability to move about in parallel time frames, and that's something that we're already seeing. Is that they went to the alternate universe already. So
right,
the Spore Drive itself has a tremendous ability to move out in space and time. I mean, come on, you might as well just call it the TARDIS at this particular point, people. I mean,
true.
I mean, seriously, when I first heard them talk about the Spore Drive, and then as the season progressed, and they were like, "Oh, we're just gonna jump into the parallel universe, the evil universe."
I honestly, speaking of that, I honestly predict, and I've said this a long time ago, I predict that maybe after this season, Discovery is going to end up in the future. And it's going to be like a situation where history thinks that they were lost or destroyed, and they do the Spore Drive thing, and they end up like in the Picard time, and then we have a crossover thing where they show up in the 25th century,
and that's the spinoff for the new show.
I think I honestly, if I were them, that's how I would do it. I would have.
You're talking about having another Assignment Earth incident.
Sort of. They do a jump like they did last time, but by the season's end, the way the cliffhanger is, they end up in the far future. And maybe this, instead of the Enterprise showing up, it's a different Enterprise that shows up. So you're kind of like doing like an echo of what happened, what happened last season.
Here we then have, if they're in the far future, that could significantly impact as far as there's the time police. I mean, Daniels, for example.
I think that will come into play somehow.
If it does, then wow, talk about even more canon being introduced.
Wait a minute. Okay, so we've discussed the rumors of Picard being tapped for a possible spin-off show. I would actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to say this now. I would want to have Picard be Gary Seven for an Assignment Earth spin-off.
It wouldn't be a bad idea.
Interesting.
I mean, you can have you know John Delancey's coming back as Q. You know it. This is like you might.
Do we
as well,
know that? Do we know that?
No, not officially. But I mean, come on, they're gonna do that.
Well, I don't know what they're going to do. I'll be perfectly honest. So far, I mean, based on the second season trailer alone, my gut tells me they're going to stick with a particular time frame and do a particular, overarching story arc for that season. But I don't think they're going to go like they did with the first season and literally start skipping between. I mean, I'm sorry, but suddenly we're in the parallel universe, and it's like, okay, we didn't want to get rid of Philippa Georgiou so soon.
She's out there still. There's so many possibilities.
Well, I know, but it's like we had to jump to the parallel universe to grab her again because we didn't want to see her go. She's
and Lorca's going to eventually come because they've never confirmed what happened to Prime Lorca.
Yeah. Exactly. And since we now know that the Lorca that we've been dealing with is from the parallel universe,
which was an easy fan.
That was a total easy segue.
Same with what's his face as the Klingon,
Yeah. Tyler. But the confusion, the level of confusion that this is all over the place. Discovery has literally been all over the place. And it's like they're still grasping for what they really want to do with Discovery.
Well, it's because they originally had a kind of anthology thing going on.
Right.
And then they realized, okay, we kind of can't do this because it's all over the place. So they tried to make it one crew, one ship, but it's still anthology written all over the place. And somebody's there just trying to string everything together.
Yeah, I think they're being smart because they were trying to reintroduce Star Trek to the general public that didn't know, because you have to remember, this is why JJ did what he did, even though it may not have you have to assume that not everybody knows the history. So some people, they want to like reintroduce them in a new way. And when Discovery did this, you know what I mean?
I can understand that, but at the same time, I understand that a whole lot of people are going to watch Star Trek Discovery and go, what the hell is this? No, I'm not interested in this. Do you know why I know people are going to do that? Because people tune into Doctor Who when it restarted and went, I'm not watching this. There are trash cans eating people? What?
And the thing, and we'll be transitioning to that topic in about a minute, but what Doctor Who does well every time they bring in a new Doctor is it's like people have asked me, I feel overwhelmed. There's a 55-year history. And I'm saying this because it's in parallel to Star Trek. Star Trek also has an over 50-year history. And it's like, where do I start? Which series do I literally had one of my best friends offline ask me, I've never watched Star Trek, but he goes, I don't know which one to start with. And I said, you know what? It doesn't matter which one to start with. You can start with TNG. You can start with DS9. It doesn't matter. If you like what you see, you can go and explore those other shows. Same with Doctor Who, as far as each Doctor. Like, you can start with the new Doctor, you can start with Matt Smith, and then if you like what you see and you want to know more about the show's history, you're not going to be lost. You don't have to catch up. You can literally start over, and the show is like a new show every time. Well, I think, my gut tells me that's what they were trying to do with Discovery, is introduce a show that didn't require you to know about, like, the past of Star Trek. But if you like it, you can look into those other shows. Well, that's the smart move.
What I'm sensing, at least as far as Star Trek went before Discovery, they laid out a universe and they simply plopped these series in different spots along that timeline. And they were, I think, very good at making sure that there was continuity, references to the past were looked up, etc., etc. And this whole, okay, Star Trek literally had a huge gap between Enterprise and now Discovery.
Right.
Somewhere
except for the 2000 the films with JJ.
Okay, well, but see, the films took it off in a whole different direction. The films took it and placed it in a parallel universe, a parallel timeline that could quite literally ignore the existing canon, because they were making up their own canon in the new timeline, and things did not have to go the same way. It gave him
didn't anticipate the toxic fandom, like for example, what The Last Jedi caused with the Star Wars fans. That's what JJ's film experience caused with the Star Trek fans.
Of course, because you're literally taking an IP that has been around for 50 years and changing the flavor. It's like Coke versus New Coke, you know? Hey, everybody, we're going to have new Star Trek over here. Now we're going to have it just in movies, and it's going to have some, younger cast and everything, but you'll get used to it. It'll be cool because the stories will be new and fresh, and we don't have to stick to this, old ancient fandom over here, or canon over here.
That's what Star Trek The Next Generation experienced when it first came out. The hardcore fans took about 3 years.
All Star Trek has done that.
Yeah, well, I remember back when TNG came out in '87, and that was the reaction back then too. Like
the reaction was like that over Deep Space Nine as well.
Yeah, well, if they had social media back when TNG came out, it would have been crazy. But they won everybody over pretty much with the Borg episode, Best of Both Worlds. That was the episode that solidified it as its own thing. But that's pretty much what Discovery's going through right now. Is maybe by season 3 people will be less, but now we have social media where people feel they have a platform, a soapbox. They should just disable comments on everything.
Before we move on, I have to get this out. Okay, so I've watched this trailer like twice now, and both times, I'm sorry, I just cannot not see like the current divisions in our social culture constructs getting particularly mad over a white dude coming onto the Discovery and telling the first officer, "Hey, I'm taking your ship."
Oh my God! I heard that
because of Regulation 19, Section C, and that right there, Regulation 19.
You're right. There's
Section
people going
C.
crazy over just that iconography of Pike being this white guy that comes in and takes charge. And I tried to argue with
No. It's not even that. It's not. Excuse the white male privilege thing for a moment.
It's Pike.
Regulation 19, Section C. Let that sink in from a female perspective.
Okay, what is that? For our listeners' sake, what is Regulation 19, Section C?
19th Amendment is what gave women the right to vote, or at least white women the right to vote in the United States.
Really?
Section C.
Okay.
When a woman cannot deliver naturally, she has a
C-section. Wow, you just blew my mind.
Okay, but I think we're possibly reading too much into this. But
well, then there's the next thing. When the Kelpian is on the bridge and he's talking to whoever he's talking to, and the first officer's like, "You've totally got him, right?" And it's like a big huge joke about female driving or something. Because both of the women sitting at the helm are like, yeah, sure. And then they look at each other, and the Kelpian walks off going, "Oh, God."
This is an example of people reading too much, like Timmy was saying, into things.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. People are so hypersensitive about stuff right now that they're not going to see this.
Well, and then when we get into the next subject here, and very shortly, that's a good segue, actually. Let's just do that because you segue too perfectly for me to interrupt it. But wow, you could be right. Sometimes they do these things on purpose, and then the context is key, right? What we see in the trailer is once you see it played out, is you might have a whole different view by the time you see it happen on the episode.
Yeah, sure.
So speaking of that, with what you just said, we're going to talk about Doctor Who, and Doctor Who obviously just did a huge thing that was a game changer where they had the first female regeneration played by Jodie Whittaker, who's an incredible actress. And, I'm just going to start with you, son, since you brought this last one up. What do you think? I mean, based on the trailer you've seen and the teaser before that, I don't know if you saw the leak scene because I've linked it to people, but
I did not. Every time I tried to click on one of those, it was taken down by the BBC.
I have it on my drive. I'll show it to you when we get done. I was smart. I thought they might take it down, so I downloaded it and re-uploaded it. I'm not promoting piracy, people. This was a leak. It's not my fault. But I've seen Jodie in action as the Doctor because of this leak scene, and sometimes I think these leak scenes are done on purpose, and to help promote things. But honestly, she's going to be amazing in my opinion. And what do you think, Son, based on what you've seen?
Based on what I've seen, that it looks like they're trying to recapture the fun of David Tennant's Doctor, but throw in the kind of crazy kind of Colin Bakery outfit with her.
I Colin Baker was the first person that came to mind when I saw her in her outfit. I'm just like, she's blonde. Okay, right there. So there's a similarity.
Rainbows,
colorful rainbows. Exactly. For me, it is very much a picture of the classic Who, only just slightly modernized to A, make it a woman, and B, bring in some of that kind of crazy fun. Now, Tennant was fun. Tennant was very energetic. So was Matt Smith. Matt Smith had a little more of the crazy, zany fun, whereas Tennant wasn't quite like that. He was a little more adult, but intense. I mean, there was intenseness about David Tennant that I loved. I don't know what Jodie Whittaker is going to do as far as intensity, but from what I've seen so far, there is a little bit of that zany craziness that harkens back to Matt Smith. Again, Colin Baker has some of that. I don't see Tennant per se in Jodie's performance. I do see more of Colin Baker, and although we've seen a lot of Happy-Go-Lucky, which is more Matt Smith. So again, if you're asking me, this is a combination of Colin Baker and Matt Smith.
Here's my take. She adds something new, which I think is appropriate. And there's nothing wrong with saying this because it's not. What a woman brings to the table is something that is kindness, and remember Peter Capaldi's last words when he was going to regenerate. He was talking to himself as the next Doctor and said, "Be kind, be kind." He kept saying, "Be kind," just before he regenerated. And from what I've gathered, I feel like every scene I've seen her in, including the leak scene, which I know you haven't seen, Son. I don't know about you, Timmy, but she's very kind and she's very sweet. She has no anger, bitterness, negativity in the way she talks to people. And in the scene I saw when she meets two of her new companions, she's very, very sweet to them. And she treats them with a huge amount of respect. And I feel as though that's going to be the differentiator, is all the other Doctors, especially Capaldi, had a propensity to be angry, or they might even start off being very mean to somebody until the person gains his respect. But with Jodie, everything I've seen, from the trailers to her leak scene, is she is pleasant, kind, and gives people the benefit of the doubt. And I think that's going to be that's part of her being a woman it's a compliment. Women are more, they're more emotional than men sometimes. In a positive way.
Well, the stereotype is that women are more nurturing and men are more
I can see a little bit of that.
Action.
The thing is that men are more mechanical creatures, not in the sense of machines, but that they deal in physical assets.
They're right. Well,
and females are more social creatures.
Again, this is the stereotype that has been created over many years, especially in Hollywood, is that women are the emotional, social, nurturing, group, and the men were all action, adventure, aggressive. So by throwing in a woman specifically because, again, Capaldi's last words, be kind, be kind. Well, okay, you could have a man be kind. That's, it's perfectly doable. Matt Smith, at least as far as I'm concerned, was a very good example of the be kind,
I agree.
Doctor. So they could have done this with a man without a problem. They chose a woman. I don't think that we can ascribe their intentions just because they chose a woman. I thought it was time.
Well, I think it's coming out in her performance as far as how she's portraying the doctor, her doctor.
Right, exactly. And, just because she is kind and sensitive doesn't necessarily mean that, she's the only person that could have done that, male or female.
Oh, no,
I think there is a mindset. I think there is a mindset that a lot of people have. And I'm going to address something with regard to the perspective of the viewing audience with regard to Star Trek here in just a minute. I hate to jump back, but there is something I wanted to say on that.
If it relates, that's fine.
Yeah, it does. But so people, and I'm talking about the general audience, have that stereotype in their head. So they're going to have an expectation when they see Jodie as the doctor. There's a general stereotype that is going to say, oh, she's going to be nurturing. Oh, she's going to be kind. That's a general stereotype. It's not always true. In fact, a lot of times I've seen that it's not true. Men versus women is not as black and white as it used to be. You see a lot of now homogeny between the sexes as far as attitudes and just general personas. So again, it is a perspective of the audience that I think they're playing to by bringing in Jodie. Now, are people going to be used to that? No, they've been used to having a male doctor exclusively since the 1960s. I mean, that's a big change to get used to. Now, the fact that we actually saw a Time Lord regenerate, and this is, remember, in Capaldi's last season, we saw...
Well, no, he's second to last, but yeah.
Well, second to last. Anyway, we saw a Time Lord regenerate into a woman. That was, as far as I'm concerned, total foreshadowing. I think they knew they were going to have
for sure.
a female as the next Doctor.
Well, I mean, we've had Chooch over here saying this since they first introduced Missy. That Missy was like their big, huge trial run for a female doctor.
Absolutely, they were testing the audience reaction, and you know what? She's actually more popular than John Sims as the original Master. I mean, not original, but as far as I've seen, Michelle Gomez as Missy has been more popular than John Sim as the Master.
I completely agree. I think there is a dynamic to Missy that isn't there. Men,
even Mary Poppins, you can't go wrong.
You also have to remember there's as much as people go, as much as the viewing audience goes, oh, it's a female, she's going to be nurturing. There's also that viewing audience that goes, oh, she's a female, she's gonna be nasty.
Well, exactly, and there does tend to be this polarization in the roles. You're either going to be the Wicked Witch of the West, or you're going to be Glinda, the Good Witch of the North. So, which are you going to be?
Well, okay, so what you just said is, I want to segue to the next part of this conversation I had in my show notes, because it's perfect, what you just said, is as far as leading into this. I want to talk about the sonic dildo. I'm sorry, the sonic screwdriver. Leave room for some chuckles. So, what you just
he actually no wait, you guys don't understand. He actually left that in the show notes. It's written in the show notes. Leave room for chuckles. I don't know why you said that. That's an aside, George.
Sonic dildo? I did. I'm looking at it right now. I did. You're right, son. You know me. So I had an experience recently. You and Timmy are both part of a very large. I might as well. I told them I was going to shout them out. I'm an admin in a very large Doctor Who fan group on Facebook called The Last of the Time Lords. I'll leave a link to it in the show notes or in the YouTube thing. And yesterday, something happened that I think is worthy of discussion because of this subject matter. The new Doctor's sonic screwdriver is causing a lot of controversy as far as its general shape and appearance.
Well. First, let's get the facts out of the way. The facts presented are that it's homemade by
She
Jodie
makes it
instead of
without the TARDIS's help this time.
right. Instead of it being produced by the TARDIS, she makes it on her own. Which
some people are speculating she's stranded on Earth without the TARDIS, like the John Kirby Doctor.
Let's get this out of the way. Let's get this out of the way to begin with. It removes the excuse of the sonic sunglasses that fans seem to have hated, but I personally enjoy.
I like the sonic shades actually. But somebody I put a link from, it was an official BBC post revealing the official, because I had leaked images that were taken from screen captures from that leak scene of the Sonic, and I knew that this is what it was going to look like. But some people are arguing because it has a pink light and all that. You know, it's a girl, here's a pink light, haha. Going to be and people are freaking out over that. But I posted this, and somebody reported, and they forgot I'm an admin. So I'm an admin, and I post this. It's an official BBC reveal from Comic-Con. This is the new Sonic. Somebody actually reported it and said they thought that I was actually making a joke post where I was posting a sex toy and saying it was the new sonic screwdriver just because it was a woman. And so it's that old trope that goes back to Stephen Moffat's skit he did for Comic Relief, where the Doctor turns into a female at the very end of the skit, and she discovers a new setting on the Sonic, because it vibrates. And that's an old joke that's gone around among Doctor Who circles because it is actually kind of funny. But they actually literally reported my post, an admin's post from an official Doctor Who reveal of the sonic screwdriver, because they actually were quick to the trigger to hit the report button because they literally thought I was posting a sex toy joke about Doctor Who and the fact she's a female doctor.
Well,
this is how crazy the divisions have gotten in like what a lot of people have been coining as the culture war.
Well, and what's funny when you think about it,
it is.
There are, again, stereotypes that exist, and these people have in their head existing stereotypes for what things look like, how things operate, how people act. So these pre-existing stereotypes these people have in their heads, and it colors what they're seeing, regardless of what it actually is. They don't do the research. They're just reactionary. They're just like, oh my god, that looks like a dildo, therefore it must be.
It kind of does, but at the same time, it also looks like a gun. It also looks like the Star Trek The Next Generation phaser, for crying out loud.
Look at Star
wait a
Wars.
minute. Wait, look at it. Look, it looks like Count Dooku's lightsaber, for God's sake.
Exactly.
Oh my god,
you took the words out of my mouth, son. I mean, it is Count Dooku's lightsaber. That is the weirdest thing I had ever seen when I first saw it. He's whipping this thing out, and it's all curvy and everything. I'm just like, what the hell is that? Oh, it's a lightsaber. Don't be a boob. You know, I got used to it. That must be the evil Sith lightsaber. That's what it is. Well, no,
it's funny too because that became one of the most popular lightsaber hilts in fandom.
It's just stylish, guys. It has nothing to do with looking like or being something else just because it's curvy. Okay.
Some people say her making it like that is more realistic from an engineering standpoint as a tool than all the other Sonics.
It's ergonomic.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It is an ergonomic. It's like easier to hold. I mean, okay, phasers in Next Generation. Just think about it for just 1 second.
They're bent.
Yeah, they're bent.
The extension of her hand was the idea they had.
Exactly. And that was the whole with Next Generation. It was the extension of the hand. It wasn't a pistol. They made it an extension of the hand. So
no, a pistol would be the squareness gun.
But the whole concept of the Sonic has again become a stereotype over all of these years. Oh, it's like it's stock straight. It's like pencil.
All right, let's just say it for what it is.
Yeah.
It's phallic. It's always been phallic.
Well, but
To an
there are so
extent,
many.
yes, but you also have to admit, when the hell have you ever seen a bent screwdriver actually work?
Exactly. Or there has never been a bent Sonic, and the Sonic has always had a relatively similar purpose in the whole Who universe. It
It's a
has
magic
only
wand.
been
It's basically a magic wand.
Even
it's a
when
magic
it's not been the Doctors, the Sonics have been rather tubular in design. Sorry, you.
Well, no,
Well,
sorry.
I mean, as
But
far
it's
as
true.
But I mean, we've got like Sarah Jane's Sonic lipstick. There was the adipose nurse's Sonic pen.
Oh, that's
These
right.
are
And then
things
the-
that are
yeah.
not bent. I mean,
right.
even
And
when
the Sonic shades,
Capaldi,
obviously, you can make them into
right?
anything.
Even when Capaldi, according to lore at this point, even when Capaldi built quote unquote River screwdriver, it was this straight thing, but it had a trigger on it.
Oh, and Missy has the Sonic umbrella.
Again, a straight line, linear kind of
A tool,
tubular
it's a tool.
thing. Right.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until Capaldi's glasses that there was any kind of change in the overall.
And the fans seem to hate it.
Well, so again, we're having a change in the Sonic. It's okay, now
And
we're
we're
not
gonna make
glasses
it
anymore.
We'll talk about this near the end of the show, but we have a show called Ambrosia that the three of us are working on. It's an audio drama about a companion who becomes a Time Lord, but hers is going to be a Sonic ring.
Yeah, so the Sonic can be anything. It's just that we have not had that that history. So the stereotype exists. It's existed for a long time. So now we're into a whole realm of newness with regard to the Sonic devices, and people just haven't gotten over this need for the stereotype. This
This
need.
is the Star Trek. That's blasphemy stuff
Exactly,
all over again.
In that episode,
But at the same time, I cannot ignore that people are going to take this too far, just like people are taking it too far with Discovery. That as much as people don't like it because it is change, or trying to get used to the fact because it is change, there are people on another side of this social divide who will scream and shout down anyone who says they dislike it, because they will see that as a sexist attack, and that their disagreement for liking it is an excuse invented because they're some male dude.
This is just that whole thing right there. That is just somebody's excuse to fight. Honestly,
yeah, or create clickbait if they want to sell their site.
This is honestly just a matter of perspective. Everybody has an expectation. This is the point I was going to bring up before. We've heard the notion that Zachary Quinto is going to be Spock in Discovery Season 2.
Possibly. That is a good rumor.
It's a possibility. It's a rumor. However, I'm gonna predict right now that if they do that, they are going to truly mess with people's perspectives. Why do I say this? Okay. They say that Discovery is in the prime timeline, and that it has nothing to do with the Kelvin universe. So what do? You bring in Zachary Quinto as a young Spock. Yeah, like that's not going to mess with the perspective of, oh, wait, is this Kelvin or is this Prime?
On the other hand, Timmy, I thought about this in the middle of our talks. On the other hand, they've already had Pike cast as not Bruce Greenwood, right? So that kind of counterbalances one of the main actors who was in the Kelvin universe.
But that's kind of
but at the same time, Pike is not this almighty at the top
that's
of
true.
the figurehead for what the original series was.
Yeah, that's true. In the movies, though, the JJ movies, Pike he was front and center.
Right, because it's the JJ films they can get away with doing.
Well, that's what I mean. They didn't cast they didn't take Bruce Greenwood and make him Pike here. So if they're cherry picking Zachary Quinto as Spock, I understand the idea that it could cause confusion, but at the same time, Pike seems to be predominantly a main character, possibly even a romantic interest from what I'm seeing. Oh, actually, no, there's another rumor going around about her and Tilly, but we'll talk about that in another show. Actually, according to one of the tweets, Burnham and Tilly are going to get together, but that's a separate subject.
So anyway, my original, point here was that this is a matter of perspective. Everybody has an expectation. My expectation, if I were to see Zachary Quinto as Spock on Discovery, even if it's a younger Spock, it's going to flavor my interpretation of what they're doing towards being an alternate universe situation.
Yeah.
But they say it's Prime, but it doesn't feel like Prime, doesn't look like Prime, doesn't taste like Prime. I mean, come on. This is just, there's so many things.
Okay, Captain Kirk, calm down.
You know what, though?
I haven't made my point.
Go ahead, Timmy. Sorry, go ahead.
So anyway, getting back to Who now. Again, people have that perception and expectation about the sonic screwdrivers, even after Capaldi's sonic sunglasses, which they hated. Oh, no, wait, that's not a sonic screwdriver or a sonic device of any kind.
And what they got at the end what they got at the very end of his run was like this thing that was actually meant to be a toy. Like it was designed to be a child's toy.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but it looks like the TARDIS, and I actually love that. I wish it would carry over.
You know what's funny? I'm starting to wonder if they're not building these toys prior to them actually being on the shows, because
no, they're not. They actually showed there was a thing I saw where they showed how they do the concept art, and they throw out these ideas and.
Well, no, but the idea being is that, this is going to be turned into a toy, so design it in such a way that it can
be a toy.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, I have no problem with that.
Oh, neither do I. I mean, I have, in my drawer here somewhere, I have the David Tennant, screwdriver. I have it.
I think his was my favorite, to be honest with you.
Honestly, it makes noise. It does blinky lights.
It can bend, too. It can bend.
Actually, mine doesn't bend, but mine's the one that pops up.
Oh, yeah, like he did that in the Day of the Doctor where he's like, are you compensating? He tries to make it elevate.
Exactly. I just say, again, it's a great toy. Being a Whovian is truly made better, at least as far as I'm concerned, when you have something of your very own that can connect you to that universe. Now, what?
All right, I'm going to jump, just for time purposes, because we could talk about this seriously all day, but I want to jump to at least the next subject, and we'll see what happens. Clone Wars. All right, so Star Wars, pretty much. Timmy, did you watch the Clone Wars?
I did not. I did not watch the Clone Wars.
Did you watch
I have never been a fan of the animated stuff. Rebels,
really?
Clone. Yeah, I just.
Oh,
sorry.
you're missing out, man.
I probably, but my shows of choice tend to be more live action than not. And don't get me wrong, I love the voice acting in all these shows. They really do a fantastic job of getting some good actors to do the roles, and I'm incredibly excited for the quality of these shows. But visually, I'm more of a live action kind of guy. Jar Jar Binks was CGI done well enough to make you believe it's real. Okay, I can handle that. But this is animation. This was animation.
I'll make this very brief. Clone Wars dropped a news bomb that they're coming back. It pretty much broke the internet. They're saying this is the one that so far has won Comic-Con. Because the reason why is, even if you don't watch the show, what was cool about this was Dave Filoni and Disney, they were forced to stop the Clone Wars back when Disney purchased Lucasfilm. And Cartoon Network had this situation with the contracts and everything. So they had to end it right in the middle of what was getting to be an epic, I mean, seriously, epic stuff going on, and they had to stop. And then they jumped, and of course, they jumped to the Rebels show, which was years later, and Ahsoka was older and all that. But they just announced they're going to finish it. They're doing one season, 12 episodes. The fans are going crazy. The fact that they're doing this, when they made the announcement at Comic-Con, what was cool about it was the fans went nuts because they've been hoping that one day they could go back and finish, even though we all know how it ends, Revenge of the Sith. It was the lead up that they were doing with their individual story arcs. And they have one big story left to tell, which is the Siege of Mandalore. And so it's going to be awesome. The trailer looked good. I'm excited. I'm a huge fan of anything Dave Filoni does. He's already got Star Wars Resistance coming out, which takes place a couple of years before The Force Awakens. So we're going to see that. Next is an animated hentai type thing. Not hentai, anime. There's a big difference. Sorry.
Yeah, there's a big difference between anime and
talking about the Sonic dildo, right? That's what did it.
Yeah, I think that was a big misspeak because there's a huge difference. But so that's going to be awesome.
Sonic screwdriver and Sarlacc tentacles. Oh boy.
Yeah, don't even. There's so many fan / sites that have probably taken advantage of this new announcement with the Sonic dildo and going crazy with Jodie as a doctor. I don't even want to know, but I'm sure it's out there somewhere. Anyways, so all right. So since you guys didn't really get into that as much, we'll jump over that topic. Let's talk Titans. And while we're at it, Timmy, let's actually skip over Titans a little bit. And you wanted to talk about this, CW and the announcement of Batwoman.
Oh yeah, Batwoman. Now here's a character that really has lived in the shadows for, I mean, even in the comic book realm for a very long time. And there's a bunch of lore. There is a lot of connection that goes on there. But it is a character that heretofore you really don't hear a whole lot about. So for them to make vague references to Batman, which is a huge DC property at this point. But okay, here we are in the CW. We've got Arrow, the Green Arrow. We have the Flash. We've got Black Lightning now. We've got Supergirl. It's a whole thing, and they have this history of really, except for the Flash, playing on kind of the B-side characters. Okay, Green Arrow wasn't hugely popular, but he was there. And Black Lightning, I hadn't heard of Black Lightning at all before CW did the show.
Oh, you didn't? He was actually he was actually a character I followed in the Batman and the Outsiders, and he was on Super Friends. Actually, was when he first got introduced.
Well, but that's the point I'm making. Generally, people are very familiar with Batman and Wonder Woman and Superman. The great triumvirate. Those are the trio of majors. Okay, Aquaman. All right, people generally understand who Aquaman is. That's no big deal. Flash. All right, he's not unknown of in the universe. But Batwoman, they're gonna like Batwoman. What?
There's a Batwoman?
It's like Spider-Woman. There's a Spider-Woman. And it has nothing to do with Gwen Stacy being Spider.
No! I know there's a Spider Woman because there's so much Rule 34.
Spider Gwen, you mean?
You're Spider Gwen.
I actually followed Batwoman from day one. She started off in the 52 series, but a long time ago when I was hanging out in libraries a lot, I was reading. They had all the graphic novels, the collections. Her series is incredible. They have so much room they can do here for making a great story, a great show.
Well, and that's what CW is really good at, though, is they like taking the characters that don't have this incredibly predisposed canon so that they can have room to tell stories and some wiggle room to make some modifications that appeal to the viewer.
Well, the thing about this too, though, is they are introducing Gotham for the first time into any of these shows. So
that's
they've
wrong.
Mentioned they have mentioned What I mean is they've mentioned Gotham. They've mentioned Bruce Wayne on
The whole
on
series
Arrow.
Gotham was set
Right, but
in
that's
Gotham.
Fox. That's Fox. I'm talking in the CW shows.
Oh, okay.
But
yeah.
and actually, though, to your point, they just announced recently that they're acquiring the when Gotham finishes this year. The CW announced that they're taking their canon is going to be that Gotham happened as far as their canon. They're absorbing it. They're taking it over as far as like saying that everything you've seen on Gotham up until the final episode happened in the CW in whatever Earth.
Yeah, and that would be smart.
Yep.
That would be just
sort of
smart.
like how they absorbed Constantine from NBC.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, we can't. I don't think we've had a show to go over this yet, but we've talked about it between ourselves in our groups. But yeah, no, the CW is acquiring the rights to Gotham because Fox is selling all of their property besides their news network to
Because
Disney.
of the buyout thing?
To Disney.
Yeah, Disney
Right.
Disney is purchasing from a number of sources. I mean, it's like Marvel acquiring from 20th Century Fox.
Well, that makes sense because Marvel can't really, rights-wise, I don't think they can buy any of their DC properties that Fox had. Because they were licensed to do it or whatever. I don't know how the legal thing works.
Yeah, well, it's like Sony, but as far as I understand, Sony actually bought the rights to Spider-Man. And they're being pricks, really, by not actually just selling it back to Marvel.
Well, I mean, this was the same thing with Fox, and if I'm not mistaken, the X-Men, which is why Disney would want to acquire it, because it's the X-Men.
Well, it's the X-Men. It's Fantastic Four. I mean, come on, all of these, and these are major names. The X-Men and Fantastic Four were not minor. I used to read the Fantastic Four comic books all the time.
Fantastic Four is Marvel really wanted them back, and they haven't been done justice on film. I liked the Jessica Alba movies, but they weren't really done right so far.
Yeah, I think there's a segment of the population that likes the superhero, glam version, and then there are those.
The Incredibles already proved that you can do a Fantastic Four if it's done right.
Yeah, well, there's the realistic, gritty. Like we've seen Dark Batman, and now we've seen the reboot of the Fantastic Four, which is dark and gritty. Some people just love that. They get into it. There's a level of realism there. Okay, great. That's fine. I, for one, I mean, this is superheroes. I like some of the glam that is involved with being a superhero, but to a point. It's like Birds of Prey. Remember that series?
Which is going to be a movie soon.
One whole season of Birds of Prey.
I know. I was really mad. That's one of the reasons, actually, I don't like Fox. They take they like the Sci-Fi Channel. If the ratings get a little low, they get panicky and they just bail on the show, and they don't let people get closure. So now, go ahead.
This is why I like the CW. They are fearless. They realize we are in the age of the superhero genre.
They literally made up Legends of Tomorrow as they went along. There was no comic based on anything that they made. They just decided literally to make a random show about time travel, like a Doctor. They even made no apologies about how much Doctor Who was their template. They even made the console in the middle of the ship, the Wave Rider there, look like a TARDIS console.
But do you understand why the networks bail on shows like that?
Well, back when Birds of Prey, like Timmy was talking about, when that show was out, it wasn't superhero shows weren't as big.
It was experimental.
It's not even that. It's not even that it was a superhero thing. The reason that a company of like a broadcast company will bail on a show is simply by the fact that their returns aren't what they expect them to be.
Well, Birds of Prey in that example.
Well, no. Let me finish. What we have right now is an increasing dependence on U.S. companies for quarter reports being up, not any sort of long-term thought process given to this will make money. This is why you see places like Netflix shoving an entire season out all in one so that people can binge watch it, because it's all about getting those quarter numbers up instead of people sitting and watching one episode a day or one episode a week because it keeps them coming back.
Yeah, you made some good points. I think that and so the next topic I was going to bring up, which is pretty much kind of side by side with this one. You guys saw the Titans trailer. Everybody's been waiting for this. What did you guys think of the Timmy? What did you think of the Titans trailer?
First thing that comes to my mind is dark, and
the second one is night, and the third one is rises.
Well,
because it definitely looks like
it does.
It definitely looks
okay,
like
now
the
I know
Heath
what
Ledger
the
thing.
new this episode's title is going to be: Dark Night
Rises. I don't know. What is this need for this bloody, gritty, mature take on superheroes?
Fuck Batman. Sorry, best line ever.
Batman's been done so much that for them to reboot it kind of in a darkish, a gritty kind of, that almost was a natural extension, because I mean,
right.
When we saw Michael Keaton as Batman, that was
Batman, by the way.
Right, and see, that had a bit of a glam to it. That had that superhero glam to it that I appreciate, actually. But
wait, was that the one that's theorized to be like a Batman movie set in Gotham or something?
No, we're talking about
we're talking about the first Batman movie with Michael Keaton.
Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson was the Joker and all that. Okay. Anyway, so we went through this series of movies, Batman movies, and they progressively got more colorful and added the humor, and then it got almost surreal by the time you hit Batman and Robin. It was.
Oh, God.
I mean, because by that time, you were literally throwing back to the Adam West Batman movie.
Yeah. It just got almost cheeseball-y.
That's the way the Adam West Batman was.
Anatomically correct batsuits, really? I mean, seriously, they were throwing in levels of humor that were supposed to apparently be distracting away from this colorful, ritzy glitzy kind of Batman. So for them to go completely the other end of the spectrum and go with this dark, gritty realism, I could almost understand it. But okay, television is we have gotten to the point now where, at least in the United
producers
States,
aren't looking at it as a TV show. They're looking at it the way Game of Thrones. They actually mentioned Game of Thrones.
It's still TV though.
Well, it's not even that it's Game of Thrones. Look at the success of everything superhero in the last 10 plus years.
Well, exactly.
You've got the gritty Dark Knight stuff. You've got the gritty Wolverine stuff from Hugh Jackman being in the X-Men and then his own Wolverine movie. You've got this dark and gritty anti-hero movie that everybody loves in Deadpool.
But I think they're actually going for the vibe of the Netflix Marvel stuff, like Luke Cage and things like that.
Luke Cage is not bloody. Luke Cage is not super dark.
There was a couple episodes that were kind of...
No. It is... You know what? You're right.
When I think about it, you're right.
You don't see blood spraying all over the place. You see bullets.
Right. You get the F-bombs.
But hey, it's implied gore. It's suspense and implied gore, because Mariah beating her own brother with a microphone post. Hello? Like beating him past dead with a microphone post.
And come on.
I see what Timmy's saying, though. You're right.
Yeah, we need to go back.
A little bit more there, but yeah.
We need to go back to some of the more Hitchcockian view of terror and horror. I mean, come on. That man was able to throw in a level of fear, suspense, and terror into stuff that didn't even have fear, suspense, or terror really in it. I mean, from a visual point of view, I don't want to see people's eyes gouged out. I don't want to see blood spraying all over the place.
That's how far they're going to go.
Well,
just
okay,
from this trailer.
but
there's a little. I
will be completely honest. I kind of didn't expect that level of
violence.
Well, fuck everything from Robin.
Yeah.
I did kind of expect it from Raven because that's Raven's whole shtick.
On Raven, that's the worst interpretation of a character.
But anyway. That's been her whole shtick from the Teen Titans animated show.
Yeah, I can't see. My thing is, I'm looking at the Marv Wolfman '80s comic as my standard for the Teen Titans. That was, and they also, Timmy, you and I talked about this once. They're actually they announced they are bringing Donna Troy, who's never what's her face played Wonder Woman's sister in the old Linda Carter show, the actress there, the one from
I know who you're talking about.
Deborah Winger. She played but she had a different name, but she was basically the same character, even had the red outfit. But they've never properly put, except in the cartoon in the 60s, I guess. I saw it on YouTube. They've never taken Donna Troy, who is a huge DC character, and she's a huge part of the Titans' legacy. They've never even in the cartoons they didn't put her in it, and I never understood why. But they're finally going to bring her to the screen.
Yeah, the only place I've ever seen Donna Troy, from a lore and extended use point of view, was in the online game DC Universe Online.
But they did bring Cassie as the second Wonder Girl into the Young Justice cartoons.
Sure, but Donna Troy is, as far as that particular character goes, I've seen more of Donna Troy and gotten more out of her lore in DC Universe Online than I did almost anywhere else.
It makes sense, though, to me, as far as why they're going to bring her in, because of the success of the current Wonder Woman series of movies.
Oh, sure.
It makes sense. That's your Wonder Woman. You bring her in.
Exactly. And again, DC is doing everything in their power to bring themselves up to the level of Marvel.
And see, here's the problem. They can't do it because Marvel had, an entire decade of pumping out really crappy movies before
they finally got it right.
To this standard.
Yeah, no, but seriously, I think that while DC has 10 years of catching up to do, there is a lot of lore that can be put out there to get people familiar with the IP. So there's just as much richness in the DC comics arena as there is in Marvel. But you're right, Marvel's had 10 plus years of bringing it out there and putting it in your face.
It also gets kind of right. It also gets kind of sickening seeing Spider-Man get bitten and Uncle Ben killed over and over again.
This last time, right?
3 reboots.
Cool. Well, that's what I liked. I really appreciated the fact that with Tom Holland they didn't do that. I like that a lot. That was smart because they know people know what they know.
Exactly. I mean, we all know the origin story, and as far as I'm sorry, but Andrew Garfield just ruined Spider-Man for me. They brought in emo Spider-Man. Yeah. Come on, who did that casting? Seriously, Tom Holland is awesome. Now
he's perfect.
He's perfect for Spider-Man. He's got
that's why I have a lot of faith. That's why I'm excited for the Fantastic Four to come back to Marvel, because they've had horrible movies in the past. Well, the last one was horrible, but the ones before that with Jessica Alba.
I actually kind of enjoyed the rebooted Fantastic Four movie.
No, I've actually never seen it. I have to watch that.
But listen, the thing is that can you imagine, because of the track record these guys have, give the Fantastic Four to the actual MCU right now? Oh my God, I'm excited for who they're going to cast. They seem.
Don't get too excited. I know Timmy's not going to get too excited because it's going to be a dark and gritty reboot.
No,
well, I am.
Marvel. This is Marvel.
But okay, now taking the template that we've seen already from the Avengers movies, they've done a very good job at finding that medium, that happy medium between glorified superhero, the glitz, the glam, and a level of realism. I have very much appreciate.
People just stand up and cheer, because Avengers Infinity War set the bar for how you can have a movie that's dark, because let's face it, and by the way, I'm just going to say this to anybody listening. If you haven't seen Avengers Infinity War by now, I'm sorry, there will be some spoilers of what I'm about to say. Everything they did in that film was the bar that DC should be looking at, everybody should be looking at, because this is how you do it. You build up this 10 years, you get these characters that cross over with one another. You not only do the things that are called, what some would call fan service, that makes people go, yay, but you also, the dark stuff that you throw in there, you do it in a way that breaks people's hearts without being the whole tone of the movie's dark. You give some hope at some points, but then you throw in that darkness towards the end. And the way that they did it, to me, was the way people should be looking at from now on, as far as the bar.
I think we have to define what dark is, though. I think a lot of people look at...
heroes dying, things like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's emotional roller coaster, and then there's dark and gritty. Now...
Okay, that's true.
It's like Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine was supposed to, hone in on that dark side of humanity. Well, they did it without actually being gritty, gross, crude, yada yada yada, so on and so forth.
Did it by circumstances.
They did it with levity too, which is why you get some of the most fan complained about episodes being from Deep Space Nine, and I'm talking about more hated by some people in the Star Trek community than the Warp 10 episode of Voyager or Spock's Brain. I mean, people hate Prophet and Lace.
Which one was that again?
That's the one where Quark is made into lumber.
Oh, I anything with Quark as the focus, I looked at it as a comedy episode. So
actually, anything with Ferengi in it pretty much was a comedy.
Yeah, because Ferengi, that's the way. Okay, so look, I do need to start wrapping up the show because we've gone like a little over the time that we normally allot, and I don't want the recording to get too big. But I want to mention that Son, Timmy, and I are part of a show we're doing called Ambrosia. Now, what Ambrosia is an audio drama, which is in the Doctor Who universe, about a woman who is the companion, and she becomes a Time Lord through the Chameleon Arch. If you've seen David Tennant as the Doctor, there was an episode or two where he became a human through the device, and they sort of reverse engineer it so that she becomes a Time Lord instead of a human. So she takes over the TARDIS when her Time Lord dies, and they're involved in her and her companions jump in. In some ways, it's like DS9, which we were just talking about. It's like the DS9 of Doctor Who. It's like the dark side of what, this is a part of the show's history that is huge. And they've already done audio dramas about the Time War and the War Doctor, but this show is set during that time with a different character that's original. And Timmy's going to be the engineer of it. He's done a lot of music for the show already. Son is going to be at some point playing River Song. And I wrote the episodes. We have a great cast, and I think this is going to be a great show. Anything you want to mention about your involvement, Timmy, or anything else you're doing?
Well, as far as from a musical perspective, I've been doing quite a lot of music for a variety of the audio dramas that we've been involved in. There's one coming out that is being worked on. Michael Medrios has created a universe called Ice World Truckers, and he is working on getting that.
For that too,
yeah. And I did all of the music for that, all the themes. There's a whole album that has been compiled of the music that I did for that. But prior to that, I started really with a lot of music for the various characters that were going to be in Ambrosia. And one of the songs, for example, I mean, you can see it out on my website. If you Google TymmyD YouTube, and that's TymmyD, That's kind of my stage name. If you Google that and YouTube, you'll get to my site, and there is a piece out there called Ambrosia's Sorrow.
My favorite. Yep.
That's just one example of the music that's going to be out there. But I've really been trying to create. I do a lot of original composing, and that it's one of my things that I like to do. I actually like composing music, but I also like doing parodies. However, I did a 5-year run of parodies, and after 70 songs, all the songs are based in the MMO genre, MMO gaming industry arena. So Weird Al, for example, he doesn't limit what his songs parody. I limit mine to MMO, type topics. So,
and I want to point out that Timmy also voices the Joker. Fred in Bat Radio. That's an inside joke.
Hello, Batbrain.
See what I'm saying? He's our Joker. Son plays our Catwoman. Son.
Hello, darling.
Oh, hold on, Timmy. Okay, you just said where else can people find you on social media as far as Twitter, anything else?
I'm actually not on Twitter. I've decided that if God wanted me to tweet, I'd have wings, and be a bird. No, I am on Facebook.
That should be one of Batman's next companions. Instead of Robin, you have Mr. Tweety or Twitter.
But I'm on Facebook. You can TymmyD on Facebook. My regular page is TJ Dover. I mean, I'm Timothy Dover, but
I'll link all this into the YouTube, by the way.
I do try to differentiate my real me from my stage, presence, I guess, if you want to put it that way. But anyway, getting back to music composition, that stuff, I'm really looking forward to seeing how Ambrosia turns out. Now, yes, I will be the engineer for Ambrosia, and I, am going to be, of course, creating whatever music is necessary for the show as time goes on. But
and your Dalek modulation. For the
I do play.
You did a great job.
I play a character in the series called Dalek Chrome.
Yeah, he's like the bad guy leader, so to speak.
He's different from most other Daleks. Yes. So he's kind of the master, evil mastermind kind of presence there. So all this work that we're doing, I mean, this has been going on for a couple of years now in the making.
Yep.
So the sheer amount of effort that's been put into this is really hopefully going to produce a very nice audio series. Again, it's fan produced, so it's not going to be of the Hollywood level quality, I don't think. We're going to try real hard, but
and we're definitely not chasing the money. Thank you, CBS.
Oh yeah, no, this is totally, nobody's paid here. Nobody's paid.
Here's
this
the thing,
is
though.
For the love of it.
The difference between the Doctor Who fandom is they have Big Finish. So unlike other audio shows I've done in the past, such as Star Trek Starfinder, Star Trek never really embraced the audio part of. I don't even think they even made audio series. They just did audio books where somebody read, interpreted a novel. But Doctor Who has their entire embracement of the audio show format and in the form of Big Finish, and they recognize it as canon in some ways. So there's a whole section of Doctor Who that is the BBC does that's built upon the idea of an audio drama, which is like an old-fashioned radio play. And in fact, as a matter of fact, Chase Masterson got a spin-off show as the character she played in one of the Doctor Who Big Finish shows, who plays Lita, and Timmy's one of his parodies was about Lita. And you talked to Chase Masterson, and I was there. We were on the air with Subspace Radio, and you said you were starstruck, so that was cool. I remember that moment. But the thing I'm trying to say is that Big Finish is its own mini universe within that Doctor Who fandom. So when we do Ambrosia, my hope is maybe we will get a little nod, a little wink, a little smile, something, because the BBC are very nice to their fans, and they're not going to sue us the way CBS might. I think we're going to be fine, and I think that they might appreciate us doing an audio drama, whereas everybody else is trying to put out an actual fan film. We're doing an audio drama. I've never seen anyone try to emulate a audio drama for Doctor Who so far, and I think we'll be the first. And I think hopefully the BBC will actually, maybe click a like or do something. But if we do it right, this show could go on for a while, and we have a good cast. So I hope everybody tunes in. We'll make that information available when we get done or when we get close to production, or as far as finishing it and all those kind of things. Son, what about you? I'm sorry. Where can people find you? And what do you?
You're excited about your production. That's fine.
Well,
I don't.
sorry.
I also don't have a Twitter because I don't have the ego for Twitter. So there you go.
I have one, but I don't use it. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
But I do have a Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Sunseahl fan, and that's SUNSEAHLFAN.
Awesome.
And that's where I try to keep my followers updated with what I've been in, and I've not been in anything in a while because Tribbles has been on hiatus.
That's all right. You know what? We were on hiatus too, but we're back. Things happen, but you know what? The beauty of the internet is when people have the time and they have the will, you can just show up again, and that's what we're doing here today. And hopefully this will be the first of a few things.
Don't forget, son, that you and I were both on Straight Outta Gallifrey. Yeah,
true. And then that show kind of died too.
Well, I think a lot of podcasts, especially when they focus on like what we did, was just strictly a Doctor Who type kind of thing. News can only stretch so far. It only happens so often. So trying to make a podcast last on that kind of thing is very difficult to do. So but we had a great time.
We had fun.
Yes, we did. Talking about Doctor Who is always
you know
one of
what?
my passions.
If somebody's passionate enough, you'd be surprised. I've seen so many podcasts on YouTube where people will talk. Let's just use the example of Star Wars. Okay, I've seen a couple. There's this guy Mike Zero. Yeah, I'll say his name, Mike Zero. He's a great podcaster. He talks about Star Wars, but he's also he's like quick to react to any news that comes out. And so he's built up a huge following because of that. Like he'll talk passionately about things like from the books, from the audios, from the the Heir to the Empire stuff. He'll go back and talk about anything to fill in time, just to give content, but not because he's trying to get views, although I'm sure that comes along with it, but because he really wants to talk about this stuff. And so if you happen to get followers because you're talking about a passionate topic that you love, there's nothing wrong with that. But you also, if you react to news, like we talked about Jodie Whittaker today, for example, all this stuff's new. Once the show actually comes out this fall, there's going to be a lot to talk about as we can talk about reactions to it, and maybe Straight Outta Gallifrey. Maybe if it comes back, or if certain people want to. There's no reason why you can't bring it back. You don't have to just let things die. You have the power to choose. If you're not like a contracted person running a show for a network, and you own it like a podcast, and you decide, hey, I feel like doing this today. That's my intention. Okay.
Well,
I felt like doing this episode today. I wanted to do this episode today, and if I feel like doing it 2 days from now, or even tonight at like midnight, if I feel like talking about something, I feel like I'll just make an episode. I'll do, even if it's just me, and we'll put it out there, and it's just content.
Well, one of the beauties of podcasts, when it's not, this is one of the things about Super Geeks. It's a fairly open arena. I mean, you can literally talk about all kinds of things that fall into the fantastical / superhero arena.
That was my intention when I came up with the idea.
Yeah, exactly. So being that Doctor Who is just one small sliver, there's so much that can be talked about. This gives really a lot of us who do have that passion for quite a variety of things a nice forum, a nice place to be able to talk about this. Because again, unlike Straight Outta Gallifrey, which was pretty much Doctor Who, a lot of it, yep. Mm-hmm.
And by the way, your composure for that the theme, the dancing doctor thing, that was awesome.
Oh, I liked making the dance doctor. That was kind of a fun during my Straight Outta Gallifrey run, I did a number of compositions. I recreated as much as can be done the original Doctor Who theme, the 1960s Doctor Who theme. That's also out on my site, and it's all done using modern instruments and all this. But it again, I tried to capture the feel and essence of the original Doctor Who theme, followed up by a completely remixed dance track of the Doctor
From my
Who
point
theme.
of view, you took Doctor Who and you took that. See, it's been a while since I played Star Trek Online, but where's that place that everybody danced and hung out in the club in the Starbase?
Club. It's Club. Oh,
20.
it's
Yeah, I can't remember. That
40
club where everybody-
Club something or other. Yes.
Yeah, like whatever that was. I felt like you mixed those two together.
Well, like I say, it was just one of these. Music is a passion. It's a lot of work, but it is a passion. When I get something in my brain that I want to express, especially from a musical standpoint, I'll get obsessed over it. I will just do whatever it takes to make it happen, and that's one of the things that ended up becoming the Dance Doctor. Now, I also made one on the flip side of that called The Next Doctor, which was...
and that is going to be Ambrosia's...
yes, and that ended up being the Ambrosia main theme.
Yep,
and
it's awesome.
With some modifications, but yeah, I've recently acquired some new tech and new abilities, and I've been kind of reworking new software. I've been reworking some of my old stuff to use my new techniques and all that. And that's really, while I have not retired from the parody universe, I have taken a very long hiatus because I intend to re-engineer. I am going through this project, this huge project, the Great Re-Engineering Project. It's kind of like remastering all of my old work in using all the current tech and techniques that I have to make them sound as good as humanly possible. Now, yes. This is not to say that I'm going to replace what's already out there. I am simply going to do like most musicians do. After
you're gonna cover your own stuff.
I'm gonna. Well, it's not a cover. It is a remastering. It is.
Okay. Yep.
It's like a lot of the classic rock, for example. You're gonna get. I know Guns N' Roses did a whole remastered album of stuff that, and that's just one example. Of course, it's all over the place. But Led Zeppelin did it. Guns N' Roses did it. I mean, come on. Just almost any classic rock band you can think of has done it, where they've re-engineered using current digital technology some of their old work to sound absolutely fantastic. Not that their original stuff was horrible, but you can tell
the quality and the fidelity was quite low for the time it was made.
Exactly. And so I am going through and reworking my stuff so that it's more in line with what I am A, capable of doing, and B, what would Weird Al do? I mean, seriously, that's the question that I ask myself every time I look at one of these things. What would Weird Al do?
He would stop making polkas except for during his tours.
All right, guys, I hate to say this, but I just don't want this recording to be so huge that it takes a year to upload it. But so I'm going to call it now. But everybody's said where they're from. Oh, let me talk about myself for 2 seconds. You can find me. Actually, you know what? It's probably better if you don't. No, I'm just kidding. You can find me on Chooch99 as far as the Twitter, although I don't use it, so it's probably better that you don't. But you know what? It's okay because I'm going to link all this stuff anyway, so it doesn't matter if you hear what I'm saying. So I want to thank Timmy for his rare opportunity to be able to add your voice and your opinions to what's going on. I want to thank Sun for joining me as usual, and there will be more episodes of Super Geek coming out at random times, my new format, I call it at Will. And if Will was here, I would say, "Hey, Will, at Will." And I did that once. He laughed. But so basically, stay tuned for random uploads of episodes as we talk about all these things that are coming out, and we'll keep everybody apprised about the Ambrosia project, anything else that we're doing audio wise. So anybody else that wants to join us for an episode, we put out a lot of feelers out there so far. A lot of people seem to want to join us, so we'll have some random people discussing these things with me. And thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.